It's Mark from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik. Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, BC. Vancouver's favorite auto service experience. 16-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver so far, as voted by their customers. How you doing, Bernie?
Doing very well this morning.
So we're going to talk about a Chevy HHR, a real bit of an uncommon vehicle. This is a 2008. You did an engine replacement on it. What was happening with this vehicle?
Well, this vehicle came to us. The owner of the vehicle had experienced some engine issues. It wasn't running well. The check engine light was on, actually running very poorly, quite roughly. Taking it to a GM dealer for a diagnosis, and they told him that his engine needed to be replaced. So he came to us for a second opinion on that.
So what did you find wrong with the engine?
Well, we found that the engine did, in fact, need to be replaced. There was no compression in number 3 cylinder, and number 4 was a little on the weak side. Also, when you take the oil cap off, there was a lot of blow by. There's a lot of pressure in the crankcase, which would indicate something perhaps more serious than just you can have low compression from, often it's a bad valve, but if you have like a lot of crankcase pressure, it can be, perhaps it's got a cracked piston or piston ring. So the engine itself is definitely in very bad shape.
So what did you end up doing to repair the motor?
So we put a used engine in the vehicle. That was the most cost-effective repair to do on the vehicles. We removed the old engine, put a used engine in.
So how does a used engine compare with a new one?
Well, cost is a huge factor. I mean, you get this HHR. It's not worth a huge amount of money at this point. It's a 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old vehicle. It's a GM. It's not 150,000 kilometers. It's not worth a huge amount of money. So a rebuilt engine, would probably cost somewhere around the $4,000 range just for the engine itself. We were able to get a used engine for about $1,200, low mileage, 70,000 kilometers, so much more economical. The labor is pretty much the same to put a rebuilt or a used engine in, but the used engine is certainly much lower price. Now, a used engine is used, so there is a risk that we don't know how it was maintained. So you're buying something, there's a definite risk to it. The warranty is much shorter. Usually a rebuilt engine is 1 to 2 years, sometimes more of warranty. The used engine, 90 days. So there's a bit of a risk, but we do lots of them, and they tend to work out pretty well. Got a few pictures to share while we're at it. Actually, let me just get the screen sharing set up first here. Forgot about that little technical detail here. Let's go back to the other screen here. You have to watch me play around here. Well, you know what? I'm not sure what I did with it. Oh, hang on, it's got to be here. There we go. Okay, here's our HHR engine, and actually I'm showing this. Well, this is a close. I'm showing these out of sequence, but this is actually a back view of the. When you do an engine change on this vehicle, you drop the engine and transmission assembly. It's all held on. It's called the cradle. It's the front cross member. They put everything together at the factory on this cross member, and we basically when we do the engine job, we just lower the whole cradle down with the engine and transmission. And this is a view of the steering rack. And this particular item here, I'm just pointing out, this is the steering shaft. What's interesting about this vehicle, it has electric power steering, which is a technology that's pretty common for vehicles built for the last 10 years. Some cars have it, some don't. But it's nice because there's no hydraulic system. There's no power steering hoses. There's no power steering pumps. There's a lot less. Makes the job a little easier to do, a little less involved. There's a larger view of the engine on the. This is actually a back view of the engine on the cradle. Still, this is the exhaust manifold. We got the valve covers here. The transmission sits over in this area, and then our last photo to show you would be a front view of the engine. It comes up. There we go. There's a front view of the engine sitting on the cradle again, and there's a number of accessories, things like the alternator that need to be removed and transferred over. But that's generally what it all looks like on the I think if I close that, I think I'm back.
Yeah, you're back.
So I can't remember where we were for questions.
So what was the vehicle owner's history with the car?
Well, that's a good question. An interesting question. He had actually just bought this vehicle, and this could lead into a whole new hangout. But I've often said, if you're going to buy a vehicle, have it inspected, because you never know what's wrong with it. And I asked him, well, what happened with it? And he said, well, we bought it and it had the check engine light on, so obviously the price was probably a little cheaper. He said, I figured it probably just needed some spark plugs. An expensive lesson in having a vehicle checked out beforehand, because never make the assumption. I would always assume it needs the worst thing, and if it's something simpler, the better. But if you don't really know, get your vehicle inspected. I mean, save money. I don't want to talk about the price of the bill for this job, but so there's a lot of labor to put an engine in, and also the catalytic converter was also damaged too, because the engine had been running roughly for so long it damaged the catalytic converter. So a lot of expenses.
So how are the HHRs for reliability?
I'd say they're fair. I don't say fair. We don't service a lot of them because they're not the most common vehicle. But this engine, by the way, came out of a Chevy Cobalt, so the drivetrain is very similar to a lot of other GM vehicles. They're fairly reliable. Not a lot goes wrong with them. But we had an HHR that was only a few years old, where the front exhaust pipe was cracked and leaking and needed to be replaced. And just things like that just strike me as not great quality, but I'd say they're sort of below average, but not bad vehicles.
Inexpensive, possibly.
Sorry?
A little bit on the more inexpensive side?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I mean, generally American vehicles have always traditionally depreciated more than Japanese vehicles. I compare to Japanese. I mean, European vehicles are more luxurious. They often start at a higher price. Many of them depreciate very quickly as well, but it seems like Japanese for depreciation are the least, and American vehicles are definitely pretty high. So you can get good deals on them. Just make sure if you're buying a used one that isn't running right, have it inspected, see if it's worth the money.
So there you go. If you're looking to get a new vehicle, a new used vehicle, a pre-owned vehicle, then the guys to bring your vehicle in to see are Pawlik Automotive. They'll give you a good idea whether it's a useful buy or not. Or if you just need service on your vehicle, your check engine light's on, get it into somewhere so that they can look at it. It's not something to be driving around with on all the time. Bernie Pawlik at Pawlik Automotive, you can reach them at 604-327-7112 or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.